Hey, so I just want to talk for a second about between these different techniques when it comes to blonding, at least. So you hear balayage, you hear ombre, you hear highlights, you hear melting, all of that. And really what it is just different techniques to create a similar product. It just depends really on how you want to maintain it and how you want the overall look to come together. So when I say balayage, what a balayage is, and I guess every stylist could be different, but generally a balayage is blonding on the ends with dimensional color. So I'm still gonna leave some of your dark pieces or some of your natural hair in there because I want to be able to see some of that darkness. It's not like an all over blonde, and it's not like a perfectly even fade into blonde at the bottom. It's very dimensional. And really what it is highlights that you don't have to touch up as often is basically what it boils down to. Because it doesn't go all the way up to the root. So when you start growing your hair out, you don't get a harsh regrowth line. So it's something that can last you a longer time between having it redone or moved up. I would still suggest coming in to get it toned every couple weeks, and you will obviously need cuts still or treatments or whatever. But you don't need to have it done quite as often or as regularly as you would, say, highlights or an all-over root color. All-over blonding, specifically platinum blonding, is hands down the most high-maintenance color you can achieve because you can see the dark roots on your scalp immediately. When I do mine, I can see my dark roots on my head within a week and a half. You have to come in every 6 weeks because if you don't, it is not a double process in that you don't have to have your hair washed twice, but I would have to go through your hair twice while it's processing, and it costs more because you're going to use more product. It takes a lot more time for me, and it's more work for me to get an even all over color if you've grown it out past 6 weeks. If you've grown it out past 1 inch on your scalp, it's a lot more work. And then when I'm doing an all over blonding, like to the roots, a lot of the times a good way to keep it from being so obvious when your roots is growing in is a shadow root. It's just a slightly darker tone that's a little bit closer to your natural color, but not quite. And it just makes it easier to go those 6 weeks between colors rather than you wanting to come in immediately when your roots start showing on your scalp. So it doesn't really change the amount of maintenance that's required, but it makes it more manageable for you dealing with your roots. And then highlights. Highlights is again a dimensional color, so there's still those dark pieces in there obviously. That go as far up to your root as you want. You can use a shadow root on these, more manageable to go those 6 weeks, but it's gonna be the same required level of maintenance as an all-over color would be. And then there is an ombre. An ombre is similar to the balayage, except it's not quite as dimensional. It's still blended up. You still leave the natural color at the roots, but it's more of a fade into blonde. It's not as dimensional. And typically if I'm doing an ombre, I won't leave any darker pieces in the very bottom. And it'll be all blonde. It'll just be like an even steady fade into whatever lighter color you want. It is sometimes more difficult to achieve, so I'd find a stylist that's really good with doing specifically an ombre look, because you don't want to look like flan cake with like the dark and then a line of where your blonde starts. That sucks. That's terrible. Go fix yourself.